Okay, I want to share with you today. First, everyone give me thumbs up. Thank you so much for being patient. Give me thumbs up. Come on, I want to see thumbs. I want to see thumbs. Not this way, that way. Okay. I want to share with you. First, I want to thank my dear son-in-law, Shimmy, for helping me so much. And I want to tell you a story about an amazing rabbi. This rabbi's name was Rabbi Yisroel Lipkin. But people know him by a greater name named Rabbi Yisroel Salanter. Now, one time there was a great rabbi, Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky, and his 12-year-old son was becoming a bar mitzvah. Is anyone here 13 years old? Anyone 13? Almost 13? So he was like 12 years old and 11 months. He was almost 13 years old. And he's the great rabbi, Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky, said to his young son, come into the room, come into the room. And he said, yes, Abba, yes, Tati, what's going on? He says, I want to give you the greatest gift that a boy can ever have for his bar mitzvah. Now, if you were going to get the greatest gift for your bar mitzvah from your father, the rabbi, what do you think he was going to give you? Do you think maybe he was going to give you a siddur or a chumash? Or maybe if you were lucky, he would give you a subscription to Reader's Digest? Does anyone know what Reader's Digest is? If this rabbi said, come over here, and he gave his son a box. The boy said, what's in the box? It's not a siddur, it's not a chumash. What do you think is in the box he gave this boy who was becoming a bar mitzvah, his son? And the boy opened it up, and it was a watch. A watch? Why are you giving me a watch? Why is this the greatest gift? And the rabbi said, because with the watch you see time. And time is life. Every second that goes by is a part of our life. And the more you're holding
the boys, this is what we're going to do.
And the more you're holding on to your watch, the more you see how important you have to do things in life. Now, Rabbi Saul Salanter was a very, very special man. And he lived at a time very similar to the time we're living now. You see, he cared so much about people. I'll tell you one amazing story. He cared so much about people that one time he was on his way to shul on the holiest day of the year. Does anyone know the holiest day of the year? The holiest day of the year is Yom Kippur. He was on his way to shul for the holiest day of the year. And he was the rabbi of the big shul. And so everyone was waiting to see him. And everyone's looking around and they said, where is Rabbi Salanter? He should be here. He should be giving the speech. He should be leading us in davening. Where is he? Where is he? Where is he? Now imagine if you go to shul on the holiest day of the year and I'm not there. Wouldn't any of you be like, isn't that weird that Rabbi Elie is not in shul the holiest day of the year? What's he doing? He's playing poker. He's in the bathroom reading a magazine about sports. What's going on? Where is Rabbi Elie? And Rabbi Saul Salanter was nowhere to be found. And then they found him because they couldn't wait anymore. And so they did the whole service. They did the whole davening in Yom Kippur night. And sure enough, when one of the ladies came home to her house, she saw Rabbi Saul Salanter was in her house. And she couldn't understand. Well, Rabbi Salanter, you're the great rabbi. What are you doing at my house? You should have been in the shul. And he said, oh, I'll tell you why. Because I was on my way to shul, just like every Jew was, and I heard crying from your house. And I went in and I saw two people in your house. I saw a little baby who had her bottle very close to her mouth, but not in her mouth. And she was crying, I need my bottle. And her older sister, who must have been 7 years old at the time, was fast asleep on the bed. Probably what happened is that the mother went to shul and she told the girl to babysit her little sister and to feed her sister milk from the bottle, but then the older sister fell asleep. And I didn't have the heart to wake up the older sister. She looked very tired. So instead of spending my whole kol nidre in shul, I fed your daughter. That's the type of person that Rabbi Saul Salanter was. He cared so much about other people. So there was one time a great epidemic, not Corona. Everyone heard of Corona by now? Has everyone heard of Corona? It's hard not to hear about Corona. But around 200 years ago, around 160 years ago, there was another bad disease went around, the cholera epidemic. And a lot of people passed away. And sure enough, Rabbi Saul Salanter, he had no money. He lived in a one-room house. He didn't care about money. He just cared about helping Jews. You know what he did? He took out and he bought a room and he bought a building and he turned it into a hospital. He had no money, but he turned a big building into a hospital. And he had all of his students become the nurses. And one day, a great rabbi came in and his grandson was very, very sick. And he took him into this hospital made just for this year. And the rabbi took him in and the students took care of this boy and he became better. Now, one of the things that needed to be done was to take care of this boy, not only on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, but also to take care of the boy on Shabbos. But that meant doing a lot of things you're not allowed to do on Shabbos. Like they made fire. You cannot make a fire on Shabbos. And they made a lot of things for this boy. Well, when the boy got better, the grandfather came and said, "Thank you so much for saving my grandson from dying. But why did you have to do so many fires on Shabbos? You violated the Shabbos." And Rabbi Saul Salanter, who never got upset, got very upset at this elderly man. He said, "I don't understand. I told all my boys that they should violate Shabbos in order to help this boy. And I told their mothers that if your boys become my nurses, I guarantee they will stay healthy." And the grandfather was very embarrassed and he walked away. And one of the older students went to Rabbi Salanter and said, "Rabbi Salanter, we've never ever seen you yell. Why did you yell at this rabbi, this elderly man?" And he said, "I'll tell you why. Because I want all the boys that are my nurses to know that they have to violate Shabbos. We have the biggest mitzvah in the Torah, and that is the Torah says you have to live. And so all the commandments, almost all the commandments in the Torah are not as important as the commandment to live." Now, how many of you think I eat pork? Does anyone think that Rabbi Elie eats pork? That'd be a weird thing to eat as a rabbi. It's definitely not kosher. But if I was on an island and there was nothing to eat except for pork, and I had to choose between dying or eating pork, what do you think I would do? Would I pick dying, raise your right hand? Or would I pick eating pork, raise your left hand? Okay, raise your hand, left hands, right hands. Well, those of you that raised your left hand are right. I would eat pork because I'd rather eat pork and live than not eat pork and die, because the most important commandment is to live. And I'm even going to tell you another story. During this epidemic started, I think, in the winter and went all the way to Yom Kippur. And Rabbi Salanter knew that eating and staying and putting calories and food in your body was very important to stay healthy. And the sick people are going to fast on Yom Kippur, and if they get a little bit sick, they could die. So Rabbi Saul Salanter said it's important on this Yom Kippur that you should eat. Which adult eats on Yom Kippur? There's one day that everyone fasts, and that's Yom Kippur. How can you eat on Yom Kippur? And Rabbi Saul Salanter told all the shuls that the rabbis should make kiddush on wine and drink and have cake in the shul on Yom Kippur. That was crazy, and none of the rabbis were listening to him. Now, he was only in his 30s at this time. He wasn't in his 50s or 60s or 70s. He wasn't the most revered rabbi in the city. And sure enough, he found two other younger rabbis that agreed with him. And after the morning davening on Yom Kippur, 150 years ago, Rabbi Saul Salanter marched to the front of the shul where the Aron HaKodesh was, and he took his cup of coffee, not his cup of coffee, Rabbi Elie. He took his cup of grape juice, and he said, Kiddush bracha, and he ended with Barei Pri Agafen, and he took his grape juice, and he drank it. And then all of the two rabbis next to him drank it. And then he made a blessing on cake. And he didn't leave the shul till every person in the shul had a piece of cake. on Yom Kippur. And then he went to all the shuls in his city, and he did the same thing. Because Rabbi Yisrael Salanter knew that the most important mitzvah is to live. And he, even on Yom Kippur, when every Jew fasts, and every year he said, this year we're not fasting, we're eating. But because Rabbi Yisrael Salanter was such a special Jew, he had so many people listen to him. You know, Rabbi Yisrael Salanter, he said, even when you're doing a mitzvah, you could be doing a sin. Who here likes to do mitzvahs? Anyone like to do mitzvahs? I see some people like to do mitzvahs. Who here likes to do mitzvahs all the time? That's me. I like to do mitzvahs all the time. But I'll tell you, sometimes you could be doing a mitzvah and you could be doing a sin at the same time. Did you ever think of that? How can you be doing a mitzvah and a sin at the same time? That's crazy. Who here can think of an example where you're doing a mitzvah and a sin at the same time? Well, I'll tell you an example, and you tell me if this is a sin and a mitzvah at the same time. So here is the mitzvah. I, Rabbi Carfunkel, wake up very early in the morning to go to the shul to pray. And I don't live very far from the shul. I live next door to the shul, but I go to the shul to pray. And let's say I want to pray at 7 o'clock in the morning. But you know what? I am such a holy person. I am Rabbi Carfunkel. I don't want to pray at 7. I want to pray at 5 o'clock in the morning. Who here is up at 5 o'clock in the morning? Anyone up at 5 o'clock in the morning? Mommies, any mommies, daddies, anyone up at 5 o'clock in the morning? Well, I'll tell you what. 5 o'clock is really early. It's so early that Hashem is going to be so proud of me that I got up at 5 o'clock in the morning to pray. Hashem is going to love me. But I wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning and the lights are off. So the first thing I do is I turn on the lights to find my socks. Because some people go to sleep with their socks on, but I don't. I think that's weird to go to sleep with your socks on. So the first thing I do in the morning is I'm looking for my socks. And I turn on the light. Now, who could be affected with me turning on the light, looking for my socks at 5 o'clock in the morning? Do I have anyone that sleeps in my room with me? Yeah, I see someone waving. That's Mommy Carfunkel. That's my wife, Rivki. That's Rabbits and Rivki. So I'm waking up early in the morning to go pray at 5 o'clock because Hashem's going to love me. But at the same time, I'm stealing someone's sleep. Now, you might not think that's stealing. You only steal when you steal someone's money. But you can steal someone's sleep. And so I've stole someone's sleep. So now I wake up, and I wake my wife up. And she's not so happy maybe, but she may be happy. But then I go downstairs, and I forgot my cell phone. So I come back upstairs. And when I come back upstairs, I make noise, and I wake up 2 of my kids. And then when I go outside, I'm in such a rush that I drop something on the floor and I don't pick it up. And so I make it to shul and I daven really early. And does God think I did a mitzvah? Probably not, because I've done so many bad things along the way to do a mitzvah. So it's very important. Rabbi Yisrael Salanter says, when you do a mitzvah, you have to make sure you're not hurting anyone else with your mitzvah. Okay. I want to share with you one or two more amazing things about this rabbi. Does everyone remember his name? Rabbi Yisrael Salanter. And after this, I'm going to tell you an amazing story. I know we have 5 minutes left, so I'm going to end off with one little thing about Rabbi Yisrael Salanter, and then I'm going to tell you an amazing story. Rabbi Yisrael Salanter was one time passing by a shoemaker. You know how you say shoemaker in Yiddish? I think it's called a shoemaker. And he was passing by a shoemaker. Now, I don't think that job exists anymore. Does that job exist anymore, a shoemaker? Someone makes a shoe without using a machine, just a shoe by itself? I don't know if that exists anymore. But he one time, very late at night, was walking home from shul, and he sees someone making shoes. So it was very late. And he knocked on the door and he said, Mr. Shoemaker. That was a weirdly interesting name for the shoemaker. His name was Mr. Shoemaker. And he said, Mr. Shoemaker. He says, It's very late at night and you're still working. What's going on? And he said, as long as the candle burns, I can still make repairs. And Rabbi Shlomo after he heard this, he said, as long as the candle burns, I can still make repairs. As long as the candle burns, I can still make repairs. As long as the candle burns, I can still make repairs. As long as the candle burns, I can still make repairs. As long as the candle burns within me, as long as I'm alive, I can still make repairs. I can still fix myself up. I can still say I'm sorry. I can still be a better Jew. And he said, wow, what a lesson I learned from the shoemaker. As long as the candle burns, as long as I'm alive, I can still make repairs and I can fix up and I become a better person. So that is the great Rabbi Shlomo. Now I want to share with you a story and we'll conclude with this story. This story takes place around 70 years ago. And there was a section in Europe that was called a ghetto. And in World War II, the Germans army, they put all the Jews, the Nazis put all the Jews into small neighborhoods. So imagine you have a neighborhood which used to have 1,000 Jews and now it had 10,000 Jews. Imagine now that in your house, 10 other Jewish families were forced to live in your house. So each family had only one room to themselves. It was a very, very scary time. And in this ghetto, there was a Schwartz family. And there was a mother, a father, 3 older kids, and twins, a boy and a girl. The boy's name was Abraham, and the girl's name was Sarah. And there were 5 kids. And the father and the mother tried to teach them Torah, but it was a very scary time. And the little boy and girl, Abraham and Sarah, they were only 5 years old at the time. And they were having a very hard time studying because they were in one room. And we know what that's like now. And then the father came home and told the mother, I heard very bad news. I heard that there's a very wicked man coming to the ghetto. And he wants to do experiments on twins. And we have twins, our little Abraham and Sarah. And he wants to kidnap them and do experiments on them. And they might be nifter, they might pass away. What are we going to do? And the mother said, you know what we might have to do? The only way for our children to survive, our little boy and girl to survive, is if we sneak them out of the ghetto. There is a place called a convent, 5 blocks from the ghetto, where nuns live. Does anyone know what a nun is? A nun is when you do 8 minus 8, you have none. No, but that's also nun. But also a nun is a lady that's one of a rabbi for the Christians. She's called a nun. And in this building where you have lots of nuns, if you bring your children there, they will take care of your children. So imagine this. You're a mommy and a daddy, and you have your twin children. Do you give them away for free to nuns, or do you keep them? Well, I would keep them all the time, except for this was a very scary time. If we keep them, then this evil man's going to come and he might do experiments on our kids, and we don't even know if they're going to survive the experiments. So one day, a day or two after they decided this, they brought the boy Avram and Sarah, the mother brought them to the convent. And he said, can you take these children for free? We're nervous if they stay in the ghetto, they're going to be killed. And the head nun, Clara, said, of course we'll take them and we'll bring them back to you when the war is over. Well, sure enough, 5 years went by and the war was finally over. And the father, Mr. Schwartz, his wife passed away and all of his older kids passed away. And when the Americans and Canadians came in, there was a rabbi from Cincinnati, Rabbi Silver, and he was a very holy man, and he was going around to all the people that survived, all the Jews that survived, and he said, how can I help you? And he saw Mr. Schwartz, and Mr. Schwartz was always sad, and said, Mr. Schwartz, what can I do to lift your spirits? And he said, the war has killed everything. My wife passed away, my 3 older children passed away, and my son and daughter, 4 years ago, I gave them to that convent down the block, and now they're being raised as non-Jews. I must go get them. And Rabbi Silver said, well, I don't know if you're going to be able to get them because I know that convent over there, that building where the nuns live. And they said they gave back all the Jews and they're not going to give you back your son and your daughter. But I have a U.S. Army uniform on. They will have to respect me because the Americans and Canadians are in charge of Germany now, not the German officers. So they went into the convent, and Clara said, we'd love to return the Jewish boys and girls to you, but we already returned all the Jewish boys. Rabbi Silver sent to Mr. Schwartz, Mr. Schwartz, don't listen to this lady. That's what she said, but she's probably holding on to Jewish children she doesn't want to give back. So Rabbi Silver said, can I go into the cafeteria now? And the nun Clara said, no, you can't go in. They're having breakfast now. And he said, I'm a U.S. Army officer. I'm going to go in. You can't tell me what to do. I'm in charge. So he walked in to this room, and there were hundreds of orphan boys and girls staring at this rabbi in a U.S. Army uniform. And Mr. Schwartz was sitting behind them. And Rabbi Silver said, everyone quiet. And even the boys and girls that had a spoon about to put in their mouth, they quickly put their spoon down. Who was this rabbi in this army uniform? And what was he about to say? He said, everyone quiet. And the whole room was quiet. And Rabbi Silver took his hand and he put it on his face and he said, Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. And you know what happened after he said that? The little boy, Avram and Sarah, who were 4 years old or 5 years old when they went into the convent, who are now 9 years old, you know what they did? They started to cry for their mother. Because you know what their mother did every night before they went to bed? Every night before Avram and Sarah went to bed, the mother used to say Shema to them. So even though they forgot everything, they forgot who their mother was, they got who their father was, they forgot Torah, they forgot everything. They knew that song. And when they started crying for their mother, Rabbi Silver in his army uniform said, these two kids are Jewish and they're coming with me. And that's how Mr. Schwartz got his two children back after the war. I want to wish everyone a great day. Everyone has to remember the amazing Rabbi Salanter, who always cared about being friendly and being honest and careful about everyone else. Remember, he didn't even go to shul on Yom Kippur to take care about that crying kid. And he always said, as long as the candle's burning, I can repair, I can fix. And we have to remember that message. And we also have to remember always to say Shema before we go to bed. How holy the Shema is. And for Rabbi Silver, it meant him saving two little boys, a boy and a girl, I mean, and returning them to their father. I want to wish everyone a great day. Can you blow me a kiss, everyone? Mwah. Mwah. Come on, I don't see everyone blowing me a kiss. Blow me a kiss. Mwah. Mwah. And I want to wish everyone a great day. Bye-bye, everyone. Thank you for tuning in.